Well, good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are on the planet. We're here at DCA Live. December continues to be rocky, but we'll try to find a couple of silver linings and a few max bottoms and a few outlooks on where we're going in 2025. But before we do that, let's check in on the team. Let's go right to left. Mando, how are you keeping?
I'm good. I'm still in the beautiful Canadian mountains. It seems. Interesting last week. I think. Obviously, we've come back and we tested that level that we held. We've kind of broken through it. I think let's see what happens over the next week or so. It does feel as though there's maybe this macro situation has continued to. I wouldn't say worsen, but like bond yields have gone back up to 8-month highs. The dollar continues to be very, very strong. A lot of the stuff that caused the initial sell-off hasn't really changed or reversed. So I think we could be a little bit choppy for a little bit here, but all good. Other than that, I'm a happy man.
Yeah, some people point to the 20th of January as being when the choppiness ends. We shall see. We shall see. CTO, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing fantastic. I mean, of course, 2024 has been amazing. And let's look at the chart and plan for 2025.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
Let's try to determine where we're going. And Marty Party in the house.
What's up, guys? I'm so happy today's finally here. I hate the wait for these pullbacks. But it's all been predicted, and we're finally here. Now we'll move up again. Thank God. Nice to
you
see
like
you
when
guys.
Stuff falls in the toilet, as they say. So let's get into it. We've got a big agenda. We're going to try to touch on all the topics that are top of mind for all of you around the world. This one's called Choked Out. We'll get to why we're calling it that. The agenda, we'll talk about a little bit of reflection on 2024. Everybody wants to know when alt season. We'll talk about this new potentially choke point 3.0 US and EU across regulations, transfers, KYC, taxes, all that stuff. We'll talk about bull run top, worst case scenario, best case scenario, supply crunch, who is stacking. The list is growing every single day. And then we'll try to pick your all season top picks, assuming we have an all season. And we'll talk about a whole bunch of other stuff people want to know as well. Marty Party's SUI versus ZEOS price targets, nation states, the potential for Democrats to dump stuff. A lot of weird stuff happening coming up to the inauguration on the 20th of January, which is less than a month away. And so, in fact, it's 20 days away, 3 weeks. And then what your plans are for profit-taking strategies. So let's have a look at the first story. 2 killer quarters so far in 2024. Now, I know people realize they're in so much pain right now. You think the world has ended. December has been horrible. But look at these. We had 70% almost in Q1 and 47.81% in Q4. Of course, a little bit of a dip in Q2, but that is a pretty staggering year. What do you guys think? I'll start with you first, Mando.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think that people feel really bad because they're often not invested in Bitcoin, but Bitcoin has pretty great years a lot of the time. And this has been a great year for Bitcoin. I think people were surprised that Bitcoin would go to 100K and Bitcoin dominance would stay as strong as it has during this period. But it's very, very difficult to fade Bitcoin with the institutional rails that it has, and just with the prevailing macro trends of fiat is trash. So I think we're going to continue. It's going to be very bad, I think, for Bitcoin to have bad years. I think, or at least bad multiple years. Let's put it that way.
In fact, you hinted at one thing, Mando, at the beginning regarding interest rates.
Yeah,
the long end of the curve, etc. I've been talking about that for quite a while. That treasuries will not sell unless they really juice the premium. And I think one of the reasons Jerome Powell was so peed off in his last meeting was he has lost the control of inflation. And he has not been able to bring down the long end. Any thoughts on that? And why fiat is going to zero at an accelerated pace with the debt explosion, etc.?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's strange because there's often like a US perspective on this, but there's two things going on. It's not like the US, yes, its interest rates are high, but this is a problem for countries all around the world. And in fact, I would say the US in many ways, just because of its population dynamics is probably in a slightly better situation than lots of others. The debt crisis is a global one. And a lot of other fiat currencies are doing terribly against the dollar for that reason. the dollar is kind of the fiat of last resort. Like it will still probably survive past a lot of these other ones. But this is a huge issue. Like budget deficits have not come down. They're having to sell record amounts of debt. They're already got huge amounts of interest on that debt. We're talking in the trillions now, just to pay.
Which keeps going up too.
Yeah, exactly. And now interest rates are starting to head back higher again. I think a lot of people had hoped that interest rates would come down and that would probably help start alleviating the US debt situation. If interest rates, particularly at the long end, stay high, then the US is going to have to roll a lot of short-term debt and continue to roll it, which means huge debt repayments or debt sales that need to keep on happening. And that's a big worry, because the US and multiple countries around the world have got very high debt to GDP. So if the US interest rates at the 10-year hit 4.6, 4.7% on Friday, if it stays that high, then a lot of other countries are going to have very, very high debt burdens, and the interest rates are just going to continue to be very, very high. So it is starting to get a little bit worrying that interest rates have stayed that high despite debt levels being this high. That's going to have an impact on budgets. Everyone's going to have to do a Doge style policy where you have to cut spending like horrifically. This is going to have to. This is really going to start to cause some damage, I think, to governments' ability to fund themselves.
Definitely. CTO, did we lose you? CTO? He may be frozen there for a second. Marty, what do you think of the year so far?
I think it's been a fantastic year. My theory has always remained the same. We're in the end of the 80 to 100-year cycle, which started in 1925, led to the 1929 stock market crash, which led to the Great Depression, which led to the SEC being created to protect consumers again from that happening, which led to 1941 Jekyll Island, the creation of fiat currency. So you add 100 years to 1925, what do you get? 2025. We are here. This is it. There's going to be a financial reset. A new system will come in. And there are no other options except digital money and digital ledgers. That's the only thing that's new. So it's just a question of time. It's going to be horrific and traumatic. It always is. We had a Great Depression the last time. And, many are saying, I've also been supporting that there probably could be another large depression situation, like Mando said. Probably the sovereign debt crisis, the rolling over of debt into higher interest situations will be the cause of systemic banking failure. If everyone's not aware, in 2025, the US government needs to roll over $7 trillion of debt. This means they need to refinance their loans. Like when you refinance your mortgage, if you refinance and interest rates are higher, your mortgage goes up sometimes 2x in this situation. Yeah. This is the situation in the US right now. And I think they've kind of left it in Donald Trump's court. They're almost pushed it into Donald Trump's problem. And so, Donald Trump is going to have to do something smart. And I think the move to crypto and the support of crypto is part of that. So there will be a refinancing of the debt. There's also $7 trillion in money markets, all-time record. People are sitting in money markets, taking advantage of the high interest rates. Because remember, it works both ways. If you give your money to the government now, they will pay you high interest. I do. I have all the cash I have is in high interest government accounts. So it works both ways. So I think you're going to see a move of that $7 trillion, this refinancing of the debt, a new financial system, collapse of the fiat, which everyone knows the milkshake theory. Dollar will pump before dumps, right? Because it'll become the strongest fiat currency. Everyone has dollar-denominated debt in the world, and then it'll peak and come down. And when the dollar comes down, that's the rebase of all asset prices. Assets go up. So you need to be in assets. 2025, you have no more excuses. If you're not in hard assets in 2025, you will miss out.
Yeah, and everybody's FOMOing into Bitcoin. We'll talk more about that in a second too. CTO, your thoughts on Reflection 2024?
Yes. So if I can show the chart here. So I think, first of all, we need to zoom out and see that we're up 100%, I think 108% or something like that. From January was about 42,000. So we're up over 100% over the year. And many other assets that we have been tracking here have been doing great as well. So of course, it's been a fantastic year. Now, short term, this is a bit challenged here. Absolutely. I mean, we're down testing the support level. I had it here at 90,800. So we're basically there. We're basically at support here. And of course, this is a little bit worrying. We could even argue a head and shoulders short-term top pattern here. But I still think that as long as this support hold, we're probably okay. But should it break? What if this support breaks? What next then? Then we have to zoom out, actually. Then we have to start looking at multi-year, looking at this from a multi-year perspective. And we could go down here. If it happens in January, we could go down to low to mid 70s and still be in an uptrend with intact parabola. This parabola that started in late 2022, went over 2023, the whole of 2024. So that one would still be intact, even if we go down to those levels. So that's what I'm looking at here. And zooming out then for 2025, unless proven otherwise, I'll assume this parabola holds and it can always shoot up faster. The market is still in uptrend. I don't think it has changed. So that's how I'm seeing this. But I'll be reactive. If the market change, I'll take action accordingly. But so far, we're still in uptrend despite this. Of course, we have a recency bias, right? Now, no one remembers that we're up 100%. The only thing we're remembering is that we're down from over 100,000 to 90,000. It feels like garbage. But we do have to zoom out. And this chart is still healthy. And if we're looking very short term, it's exactly like Mando said. All the macro factors here, like the strength of the dollar. The strength of the dollar is broken out. The yields have been short-term strength and so on. And stocks are down as well today. So I think that's what we're seeing today. There's nothing really related to Bitcoin as such that has happened today. I don't think so.
Well, there is some dark clouds on the horizon. Let's talk about the US briefly for a second. There's some new IRS rules that were out. Mando, you're well aware of this one. Head of research at Galaxy said if the IRS's rule that DeFi front ends are identified as brokers is not rolled back, the DeFi industry will face three options: comply with reporting requirements, accept the broker's identification, or block users from the United States that many other DEX's DeFi platforms actually have already done, or give up smart contract upgrades and revenue generation. So how do you see this playing out? This could be bad for DEXs like Radium, Uniswap, etc. What are your thoughts, Mando, on this one? I know you're not in the US, but let's unmute you there.
Oh, let's unmute myself. Yeah, look, the IRS kind of snuck this in the last week of the year. And on the 27th of December, a bunch of crypto firms had to file a lawsuit against them. They're basically, there should be a massive attack on DeFi. And I think the response really would be, that you'd have to block users from being able to use it. There would have to be, it basically puts a massive onus on these DeFi front ends to collect consumer data or follow certain protocols for like KYC, customer protection, that sort of stuff. To the extent that, and sharing that information with the IRS. Which to the extent that they might decide not to do it, or it would be basically what we're getting in Europe right now, where it's like this massive regulatory purview over everything you're doing in self-custody wallets. And their view of what is a broker is very broad here. It's DeFi, it can be NFT marketplaces, it can be tons of different things. Now this is part of what I'm seeing is a pretty global attack right now on self-custody. For those not aware, in the EU, what went live today was the EU travel rule. Now, a lot of people heard about this with Tether, and there was some light Tether FUD over the last few days that they got delisted. Part of this regulation is around what you need to be a stablecoin in the US, but part of it is a massive attack on self-custody. And I think there is some leeway here for like exchanges actually enacting the policies around this, because I haven't seen it from all exchanges yet. I've seen it from like crypto.com and OKX. But basically, if you transfer 1,000 euros in or out of a centralized exchange, you are going to have to, number one, prove that that wallet is either yours or is related to you in some way, like prove that it's like an invoice or something like that. And secondly, you might have to prove proof of funds or source of wealth, proof of income, that sort of stuff. So just 1,000 euros into a self-custody wallet now is going to require basically pretty large-scale KYC, which can be shared with regulatory authorities, tax authorities. So the idea that before we were able to send money to each other in Europe, particularly, you are able to send it from, let's say, self-custody to self-custody, but the moment that touches a centralized exchange, which is what most people use to on-ramp and off-ramp, you are going to have to go through pretty extensive KYC, it seems, right now. And it looks as though there's going to be a little bit of time for exchanges to kind of get up to speed with those rules, because I haven't seen it from everyone so far, but those rules came into effect today. Yep. So massive impact there if you're doing DeFi in the EU.
Yep. I
also saw today that Brazil is saying that they're going to block or potentially ban stablecoin transfers to self-custody wallets. Now, this is not if you actually go globally with crypto, a lot of countries have rules like this. So a lot, like in South Korea or India or various different Asian economies, even withdrawing from a SEX to a self-custody wallet, they don't even allow it in a lot of different countries. Like, you can only do a lot of your stuff via exchange, which is why often getting listed on, let's say, a South Korean exchange is like a really big deal, because that's where the majority of users can actually access crypto. But it looks as though the EU in particular is going to go down this route, or at least you have €1,000 leeway. And the US is approaching it a slightly different way, in that it's basically saying, maybe you can have self-custody, but if you do anything, we're going to get all your data from what we define to be a broker in this scenario. So this is like a global attack on self-custody. No doubt, man. The fact that it got snuck in the last week of December is kind of cheeky.
Yeah, there's a lot of cheeky stuff happening. It's a very good term for it. I know, CTO, as well, you're very much against governments holding KYC data because they can be easily hacked and they become a honeypot for hackers and scammers. Thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think probably unintended consequence, I hope it's unintended, is that these databases will leak for sure. They will be in so many places, and they're worth so much money for criminals. So they will get hold of these databases, then they will have wallet addresses mapped to people's home addresses. And that is not that's not a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to be aware of for everyone that have larger sums of money, and take some precautions, because I think that's the real risk here that I think a lot of people haven't really thought about.
Yeah, and well said, CTO, as well, because as the value of crypto goes up, the scammers are really upping their game. The fake Coinbase callers used to have foreign accents from Nigeria and other places like that. Now they're like very professional kind of MBA types on the phone. You'd swear you were talking to Coinbase. I tried to record a scammer call and I hit the record button wrong. I didn't pick up the audio, but it was a hilarious conversation we had. I was stringing him along until the very end. And I said, you've really upped your scamming game. And he got so aggressive and he cursed and blinded me out like I've never heard before. So it was hilarious. Marty, thoughts on all of this craziness going on there?
I have a lot of thoughts. I've been following this for a year. I mean, we all knew capital controls were coming to crypto. I mean, you must understand, first of all, we do need protection, like you just said. We need to remove the criminal element out of crypto. Crypto will not move to $1 million Bitcoin until the criminal element is removed or regulated. And this is part of it. We all knew that this was coming. But the important parts are MiCA is a little bit ahead. EU has always been on an accelerated path. And there's some things that people need to understand. Don't fall into the FUD wave. This is all very well known. The first concepts you need to understand is, what is a broker, a DeFi broker? Micah has already defined the exclusion of fully decentralized brokers. If you are fully decentralized, none of this applies to you. This only applies if there's a sort of a partially decentralized service. This is a service which has an intermediary. So actually, at the end of the day, this is a problem for things like Base. This is a problem for anything that is somehow connected to a centralized controller. Pure DeFi, this doesn't affect. So it'll come down to which UIs, which smart contracts have centralized control, etc., etc. But it only goes into effect in 2027 in the US. They're a little far behind. They rushed it in. They sort of boilerplate copied it from the MiCA rules, which means they don't really understand it at all. But at the end of the day, if you are determined to be a partial broker in DeFi, so if your smart contract sends money to a centralized wallet in any way, like Coinbase from Base, or for their gas or their fees or any other intermediary, then you will have to report gross proceeds from those sales. Gross proceeds is a typical accounting standard. It just means you have to issue a 1099, etc., etc. So it's just going to be like any other financial rail in the world. And it just means they want to know who's sending money at the end of the day. It's capital controls, which is all part of the economic shift. So I don't see this as FUD at all. In fact, I need a little protection. I want crypto to be cleansed. I don't want criminals in crypto. From the beginning, criminals jumped into crypto. Why? Because they could get away with the stuff. I don't want that. If you want your assets to go up, you need that out. This is part of it. Now, granted, this is not perfect. MiCA is far from perfect. This new Janet Yellen rush job is not perfect. But this is the beginning of the steps that will put into process, critical thinking people to make the right decisions. And I believe they will. They will recognize DeFi, truly decentralized platforms, and they will recognize partially centralized platforms, which we call centralized. And I think this is all part of a process that is good for crypto. Don't be afraid.
Let's move on to
Unless
the next
you're
topic.
a criminal. If you're a criminal, be very afraid. There we go.
Well, the funny thing is, criminals often are more advanced, more sophisticated than governments. So hopefully that's not the case. But anyway, let's talk about this. This is a big story that has a lot of people chattering, which ties into the next topic: is how low can we go? We'll talk a bit more about support. But Raoul Pal, he had a prediction very recently, and he spoke about a liquidity dip in January, leading to a 10 to 30% drop in Bitcoin prices. Like, we're already at the 10% zone right now, maybe more, 15% from the top 108,000. And then after that dip, we go into the banana zone straight away. And this insight underscores, the lag between liquidity, which holds sometimes, but not all the time. But I'm wondering, have you guys dug into this at all? Mando, you're nodding your head, and I know you're close with Raoul.
Well, this is very related to what I was saying at the start. Like, people are basically saying, let's go back to the original definition of what was the banana zone, was actually that we were going to go through a period of recession-like indicators, which was going to cause money printing globally. Now, we did see that in China. We did see that in like some countries around the world. And it looked like we were going to get that a little bit in the US. We were going to get a soft landing. There was some talk about hard landing. It now looks like we're going to get a soft landing. And actually, they're saying that we're now scared about inflation again, which is why interest rates have gone back up. So this whole concept of like money printing globally, that's what's been challenged here. Make no mistake, like that is what has changed over the last 2 weeks. And that is why we're seeing Bitcoin alongside many other macro markets going lower, because suddenly this whole global banana zone thing, at best, it's been delayed at best. And it may pick back up again. But what we've basically seen is that we're probably not going to get money printing or like a massive decrease in interest rates that we were hoping to, let's say, 6 months ago. Like, we were all talking about, dropping interest rates as quickly as possible. Now it looks like that's at least delayed by another 6 months, maybe longer. So I actually think that that's quite a big deal. Like there has been a secular shift in what people are expecting here from markets. And 6 months ago, we didn't predict this. In 6 months' time, it may all change again. That's kind of what Raul's saying as well. Like this could change. If things get bad in macro, then people will probably call for money printing again. But right now, what they're really scared about is inflation, or that's what Jerome Powell's telling you, which means money printing is off the table. In fact, that it's more maybe interest rate increases / staying the same.
Yeah, and there's another twist to this whole story too, because there's been stealth money printing happening in the US for the last 2 years, hardcore. The other thing that's happening now is the debt ceiling is being reached. Then they remove it. Now there's a lot of talk that basically the existing party is trying to implode the government before the new person comes in. So like between all the cheeky stuff that you mentioned, Mando, and some of the weird shenanigans that are happening behind the scenes, it's all very concerning. But CTO, are you looking at any liquidity right now?
I do believe very much in that principle that the liquidity means new money flowing into the system. They're going to buy stuff, and they're going to buy definitely Bitcoin. So if that is on pause, if the liquidity inflow is on pause, yeah, that has an impact, absolutely. I think there's one thing that could be worth observing here, if I can share the screen for a moment. And that is this. This is the yield curve. Sorry, let me change it a little bit. So, as Mando said here, everyone, me included, thought we would break down here, that yields would drop and so on. But it didn't. Instead, it has bounced up really high. What would be spectacular is if this breaks down here again. If we get like a top pattern in the yields, and this breaks down here sometime Q1, Q2, or possibly Q3 next year. If that happens, then the yields have actually topped. But as Mando said, now perhaps it probably is delayed. It didn't happen here in the autumn, but it could still happen. It could still happen sometime mid next year. And then that would be a very solid top pattern. A lot of people would see that. And that would be a massive boost to markets.
And it goes back to nobody wants these treasuries at low rates. They're not selling. That's why these rates are going higher. And Jerome Powell have no control over all of this. And that's the crazy thing. So they think they're in control. They think they control inflation. They don't. All they can do is destroy demand. Marty, let's talk about liquidity. What are your thoughts on this? And where we're going from here?
Global liquidity. Rob Powell was right on the money that we followed liquidity. We ran up to 100 trillion, pulled back down around 3.6%. And the little bit of a lag, Bitcoin came down, but we all knew that was going to happen. I think the bigger problem is what you just said. I think inflation is on the rise. Interest rates will have to go up. Nobody wants to leave their money with the U.S. government unless they're getting a decent return. The U.S. debt is possibly going to get downgraded to AA. These are all what I call the sovereign debt crisis. We're in the early stages of it, which means that nobody wants U.S. debt. So even the EU and the Tether thing really comes down to the fact that they don't trust U.S. debt. Tether is backed by U.S. debt. EU saying, no, if you don't have EU bank money, we don't trust you. We don't trust this U.S. debt. It's 30-year debt, 8-year debt, 10-year debt. We don't trust it. So at the end of the day, I think we're going to see interest rates go up. I think we'll see Jerome Powell out. And I think we'll see tariffs come in to try and circumvent this problem. But I mean, there's bigger issues at hand, people, and that is robotics and AI and the the unemployment rate. Things like this, wages are going to come down. So there's systemic issues way bigger than this. I think they're going to have to print money. But they are print money. James, you just said it, stealth. They've sent $1 billion or $2 to Ukraine every week. Where's that coming from? That's printing money, people. That's called stealth printing. They just sent $1.2 billion to the Amazon rainforests. This administration in these days before Trump is literally printing money on any cause. You give them any cause, they will give you $1 billion. That's going to cause inflation. Go ahead.
Yep, exactly. Let's talk about this because this is also top of mind for the audience here is how high can we go? We talked about the bottom, worst case scenario, 70K. I see 90K as kind of interim support unless you have a big macro hammer hitting the markets. But we'll talk more about accumulation in a second. But this is from Blockware. and I broke this down in a video recently. I found it very interesting in their analysis of what it takes to get to the bear case, and the answer is not much at all. So, what is the bull run top worst case scenario in your mind? We'll go around the table real quick. Do you think worst case we get to 150K? Mando.
Yeah, I mean, these are pretty nice scenarios in all scenario. Like, bad case is something really bad happens, like COVID. But I would say that if the cycle goes as people expect it to, I think we could probably have a little bit, like, all this macro stuff. I think it's got to resolve itself in Q1. Everyone will realize it's not going to be that terrible, and Bitcoin is the only savior. And particularly if we start to get murmurings or actual policy around a Bitcoin reserve and Bitcoin policy in the US, I just think there's just so much happening around crypto that it's going to be really, really tough for it to not continue higher, even if it chops around and hits 75K. Like I think we're very, very comfortably going to go to these sort of levels. Yeah. I said probably last year that I thought we'd hit like 180K this year. And then I don't know after that. Like, I personally am not a big fan of like the cycle theory now, because I just think it's going to be far more similar to broader financial assets. But maybe someone does something dumb around that sort of time and we get another blow up, or maybe something happens on macro. You just never really know. But I think 180K is kind of where I'm thinking would be a nice target for 2025.
Mando the Bull. That's a doubling from here, which is pretty darn good. One of the things that's super interesting, Marty, you can break down 2024 into 3 or 4 big events. ETF approval, Bitcoin spike, chop sideways after the halving for 5 or 6 months. Then you had the 42 with the carry trade reversal, which is a V-shaped recovery, big dip, August 5th. Then you had the 42 billion from Saylor, big spike. Then you had the November 5th election, big spike. Boom. That's the year. 4 events, 1 down, 3 up, and the rest is sideways chop and market manipulation and liquidation hunting and stuff. How do you picture how high we go in 2025, Marty?
Look, I've been pretty spot on to date with my predictions. My prediction right now, without any effects of the financial FASB accounting changes, in other words, when the Trump inauguration, I think, will be a catalyst for another pump, I believe, to 125. But then we'll have FASB kick in. So we might see an Amazon or a Microsoft or a large corporation commit to Bitcoin. We might see the Loomis bill pass, or even get another voting session. There's a lot of macro things in Bitcoin as a reserve asset that might trigger all charts to have to be redrawn. And, that I would call the bull case. The bear case for me, if none of that happens, is 128,000. That's where I think, but chances of one of those things happening are very large. If one of those happens, I think if Amazon or Microsoft or one of these large corporations declare, I think we see, minimum 160,000. If the strategic reserve bill passes, then I think we go to the 250 by the end of next year.
Yep, exactly.
And
that's the math.
My target is 1.5 million by 2030.
Yeah, because the domino effect of a treasury from a large country, I'm talking any G7, any top 20, is huge.
Correct.
CTO, what's your worst case Bitcoin top 2025, buddy? Mute.
Yes, so if I can show this picture. So if this parabola holds and history repeats a little bit around the halvings, like it's been previous halvings, we get to 125 at this parabola. But of course, it could turn up steeper. This parabola could start accelerating. It could start turning up steeper, something like that.
But
and
we're looking at the BLX. Does that matter? Not the BPC?
It doesn't really matter. It's just that this one has longer history. So I've done some exercises here where I compared all the previous parabolas. So the price today isn't showing the current price. It's closing prices. So just ignore that. But I get it then somewhere between 125 and 300,000. Then if this parabola breaks, if this doesn't hold, if instead, we get something like this, okay, then it's a completely different situation. Then I will react on that and not stick to my previous statements. So I have a reactive mindset. If situation change, I will take consequence of that. But right now, that's what it looks like. So between 125 and 300K under the current parabola.
Okay,
I agree
good
with
stuff. I want to show a couple of things. Talk about the stackers. This guy, every week now, 8 weeks in, keeps on buying. Yeah, the buys aren't as big, only 2,138 Bitcoin for 209 million, but it's all a function of how hot the market is. When the market's really hot, then he sells more stock, etc. But that is crazy. Between them and BlackRock, they have nearly 1 million Bitcoin, just 2 players. Then Tether. This is kind of like breaking news from Chewy, from Vivek. Tether just bought 700 million worth of Bitcoin. They now own 7.7 billion of Bitcoin. That's 88,000 Bitcoin. It's nearly 100,000 bag. They're turning their, yield on treasuries into Bitcoin. So they're using fiat to stack Bitcoin, which is brilliant money glitch. Then we have, let me see, we have not this one. This one miner buys them all from HODL 50. Oh, sorry, wrong slide. Hang on a second. Juggling too many things. This one is huge. The miners used to be the source of Bitcoin. Now, Iris, Core Scientific, Wolf are all selling to keep the electricity on, etc. And Marathon is buying them all, and they're issuing debt to buy more Bitcoin, and they're not selling. The largest public miner in the world, they're not selling any Bitcoin at all. Then we have this situation, and I'm sorry, dumping a lot here, but it's all kind of related. This is from Marty. As you said, BitGo, the CEO, Mike Belshi, we are now talking to multiple corporate clients about putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They are all having these conversations. And then we have crazy stuff happening like this. And then I'll pass it over to you guys. Justin, I don't know if there's any lead behind this at all, but former German finance minister, normally the people who are former have an axe to grind, but Christian Lindner calls for Bitcoin to be added to ECB and Bundesbank reserves. So a lot of talk, a lot of action, a lot of stacking. That's not happening on the retail side, but on the corporate treasury side, I said, you've heard me many times, it's going to be a huge narrative for 2025, especially with the new accounting rules. Mando, I see you nodding your head. Thoughts on all of this I just dumped on you all?
Yeah, this is where I think we maybe even depart from the global liquidity thing. Like, yes, what we spoke about last week is that, the macro trends caught up with us, and now they're kind of the prevailing thing in the market right now. Like what's going on with stocks today, bond yields, suddenly we didn't care about that for a while, and now people are talking about it again. What I do think is that we're going to get, as Marty said before, we're going to get one of these big companies come in and say, hey, last quarter we bought this much Bitcoin for our treasury. And that's going to be a very, very big story. And then you're going to see increasingly different countries move to consider having it as part of their reserves. Either that's done at a local government level, like you'll see states doing it, or smaller regions or cities, and then you'll start seeing it from sovereigns themselves. So I think this is just going to be the underlying bid for crypto next year. As soon as Trump gets into power, and suddenly, which we've kind of already seen, but it's really going to be pushed to the forefront now with Trump, is that Bitcoin is now accepted. It's now part of the it's accepted for any country to have or company to have as its treasury. Lots of people are going to experiment with it. And I just think that's going to be a big, big prevailing trend for 2025. So that's why I think we're going to continue to go higher, kind of no matter what happens with macro.
Yeah, I wanted to share this, James. Guys, this is another story I picked up. Listen to Cynthia Loomis here. The question was, you can jump a little forward. The question was, how is the US going to buy a Bitcoin reserve without money? They're going to have to print money, and this is an answer. I'd like you to go. It's about halfway.
Reserve that could be used to
about halfway.
Reduce the ways to be held by the federal government in a variety of vaults, and that states can participate in as well. So this is the gold standard digital asset, and a strategic Bitcoin reserve is the way to embed it.
We got off the gold standard a long time ago. My question is how much you would spend tax dollars at a time when we're talking about trying to reduce costs. How much would you spend on Bitcoin as part of this reserve?
We wouldn't have to spend any new dollars. We have reserves at our 12 Federal Reserve banks, including gold certificates that could be converted to current fair market value. They're held at their 1970s value on the books, and then sell them into Bitcoin. That way, we wouldn't have to use any new dollars in order to establish this reserve. The United States already holds.
That's big, and I know she's been banging the drum on this for a long time.
That was the biggest bullish news of the week, and no one picks it up.
No, yeah,
I told Peter Schiff about it for sure. What, Peter?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Well, that's. Can you just imagine the U.S. government starts ditching gold and buying Bitcoin? Like, think of the double whammy. It's like dominoes twice. Two massive things of dominoes.
James, it makes perfect sense. They've held it since 1970. It's not on book value. They're selling it at 2,600 an ounce. It's a massive trade. It's a brilliant trade of a legacy asset into a new asset. It would be literally the move of the century.
But governments are governments, and a lot of people would understand that could technically be a threat to the dollar as well down the line. But who knows? This is all kind of conjecture at this stage. Any thoughts, CTO, on this craziness?
I think the craziness is going to pick up, and I think it's going to surprise everyone, including us. We talk about AI almost every time, but I reflected a lot about it. I think the world is going to change a lot more than we can all imagine. I think big changes are coming, and things that seems like it will never happen, it's actually going to happen. I think that moving into a more digital space, more digital money is going to happen. It's going to happen big time. All the financial assets is going to get digitized. It's going to get on the blockchain. It's going to get tokenized, like Larry Fink is saying. Of course, digital money on the internet is a useful thing, and it's going to pick up. Physical gold will seem old, and the AI transformation, we haven't talked about it yet, but it's going to be bigger than anyone can imagine. I think a lot of office jobs will become redundant. The cost will become almost zero to perform them, and big changes are coming, guys, I think, and I think it will pick up in 2025. We talked about AI agents. Now it's like a fun thing to speculate on in the meme coin market. But I think AI agents are going to replace a lot of jobs. So everyone sitting here, it's the end of the year, thinking we have to think ahead a little bit. And I think everyone sitting, clinging on to a job they hate because it's a safe job. It's not safe anyway. If you're sitting in an office doing some work in front of a computer, it's going to get disrupted anyway. So can as well venture out a little bit and take some risks and study investing, learn more about crypto, blockchain, AI, technology in general, tech investing. I think that's the right action to take in response to this disruption that's coming. That is something I've thought a lot about.
Yeah, I think we were very early. I mean, we mentioned AI agents when they first came on, right? And I think GOAT was the first one. It was probably around 400, 500 million market cap when he first mentioned it. And the whole of that space is probably worth under $1 billion. It's now worth 12 billion, nearly 13 billion as of yesterday, or maybe the day before. So it's done a 13x since we mentioned it on this show 2 months ago. I think that whole space could go up towards 50 to 100 billion over the course of the next year. Like the AI meets crypto space, particularly with what some of these agents can do, I think is going to be absolutely massive. I do think will be the underpinning of a long-term crypto bull trend here. Like I really, really do. Like I see it as kind of how NFTs back in 2021 when we had our wobble, right? People who were around then remember this, spring 2021, everything kind of wobbled, Bitcoin, ETH dropped. NFTs remained pretty strong during that period because people saw it as a use case for crypto. I think we're going to see here maybe a little bit of a wobble. AI forms the foundations for us to come back, and it'll keep people engaged. People are obviously degenning there as well. It's taken a lot of the shine away from other left curve stuff in the market. But I think that is a very powerful trend this cycle. That is the trend. That is the DeFi. That is the NFTs. That is the trend, I think, of this cycle now.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad you said that. I'm glad, and C2, you said that as well, because I've been concerned since November 2022. People remember, be prepared. Big changes coming, and there was a tweet from a very good German guy on X last night, and he said by 2030, all jobs would be ravaged between AI, superintelligence, AGI, bots. A very, very dark forecast. And this guy is a very, very smart guy. I'm going to dig more into it. But, either way, even if that future doesn't come true, there will be massive, massive disruption. And then this leads us to our next point is there is convergence happening across many different things like Bitcoin, things like Zeus, things like alt season, the merging of AI with crypto, TradFi with Bitcoin and digital assets. It's all happening. Let me share a couple of quick things. Everybody wants to know, when will alt season begin and what could drive it? So first of all, we'll tackle this in a second, and then I want to share a little bit of news. All new tokens appearing on Sol. Blue is Solana. Mando, you're very familiar with this from pump.fun and all that type of stuff. But if you look at Solana and Base now do everything, like literally all the DEX volume, all the new coin issuance, all the listings. And of course, there is one big black hole, which goes from strength to strength, which cannot be ignored. You got Grayscale coming into the space as well. And they have added to their top 20 crypto list 3 Sol alts, Jupiter, Grass, and Jito, which was kind of stunning. And then eventually they'll make funds out of these assets. And this is all ahead of the Sol ETF that's coming too. And what people really want to know is where next? Will alt season happen in the traditional way, i.e., will Bitcoin spike first and then people rotate profits into alts and then alts spike for 2 or 3 months? Or is there going to be a separation between Bitcoin and the other assets? Or with things like Zeus, will everything run together? It's a hard question. Marty, I'm going to give this one to you first. Alt season, when does it begin? Will it happen in the traditional way?
I mean, alt season typically is, to me, it's about long-term capital gains rotation. So if you bought your Bitcoin down low, if you sell it now before the end of the year, you can extend your capital gains another year. You have another year to deal with it. But typically you move it into alt. And I think that's going to happen. Typically we see the altcoin season start in the beginning of the year, 1st of January, which is 48 hours away, guys. And it looks like it's just about to start. So I think altcoin season definitely is about to begin. This time around is different, right? I think the dinosaurs, the speculative things, we're no longer in a speculative asset class. We have projects right now that are no longer speculative. Solana, Base, they're not speculative. They are making money. They are revenue-producing economies, self-sustaining. Then when you talk about AI, Mando, I mean, AI is the connection between think and execute, right, at an AI level. And the minute we have stablecoin adoption, regulated stablecoin adoption, where Amazon can support stablecoin transactions, you can have your AI look and wait for deals on Amazon and buy the thing. Like, the economy will explode with these AI agents when we get to that point. And that's coming in early 2025. The altcoin season, I believe, will be dominated by the execution layers that have the adoption. And the rotation is coming any second, any day, right now. And I mean, what can I say? When does altcoin season end? It goes into price discovery. And, it ends when Bitcoin starts to move up again. And you can see from behind here, here's sort of my prediction. You can see sort of the timeline. I think the altcoin season starts now and runs to that next peak at 128,000 around April, May next year. And then, it's May, sell in May, go away. We're a little bit extended and accelerated from the Trump pump. So potentially May now becomes April. We might be peaking in April. And then I think we see, the ultimate correction back to a higher low and then the next move up. But this all changes, obviously, like I said, with any of these major macro changes. But that's my opinion. I think altcoin season is around the corner, expected between January 1st and January 10th to start seeing the dominances, the pair trading. Remember, people trade pairs. Retail is so ignorant about what's really going on. Crypto Twitter and retail think they control the price of crypto. They're immaterial. Crypto is controlled by hedge funds, whales, ETF issuers, market makers who are trading with pairs. And so they're going to start trading the Bitcoin pairs from one altcoin into another. And that's going to start any day now. And so watch the pairs, people. Don't watch the dollar price. Watch the Bitcoin prices. That's what you need.
A lot of questions coming in regarding AI agents. And Mando, you always mention GOAT being the number one. Most of them are Solana based, correct? Not on Ethereum.
Well, it's changed a lot, actually. The whole of this landscape has changed massively over the course of the last couple of months. Just going back to your original question, I think altcoin seasons are a little bit interesting because you could say that we kind of had one for the Dino Waltz over the last 2 months. XRP did a 5x, right? I don't know what else you're waiting for if you were in any of these coins. You did have pretty crazy gains across a bunch of those. My view about altcoins is it's often you have altcoin seasons, but there was an altcoin season for meme coins for the first half of this year. Yeah. And then it moved into Dino Waltz after the election. And now what we're seeing is AI coins are becoming the thing. I showed this today, which was altcoins, meme coins, AI coins in terms of search trends. AI coins have now flipped meme coins for search trends over the last week or so, and looks like they're about to flip altcoins. So this concept of a broad-based altcoin cycle, I think is a little bit, you miss on the subsectors here, because I would have said we had an altcoin season, but it may have not shown up in Bitcoin dominance at the first half of this year. It was just in coins which aren't XRP or ADA or all these other coins. It was in meme coins, and everyone was trading those, and that was your altcoin season. Over the last few weeks, meme coins have not done so well. At least certain meme coins haven't done so well. Altcoins have basically peaked a few weeks after the election, and XRP is about to go below 2. All these other Dino Waltz have not done so well since then, and AI coins have now become the strongest trend. If you're looking for them, there's a really good website called cookie.fun, which kind of gives you a whole breakdown of all the different agents, where they are. It gives you a sense of their mind share, the change in mind share, the price, holders, everything. It's a really, really great website, and it's for free. You can see total market cap is actually around 12 billion right now. The top AI agents now, they're often actually marketplaces. So Virtual is the number one coin. It's a $3.5 billion FTV at the moment, or 3.3 billion. That's on Base. On Solana, the Solana version of this is AI16Z. This is behind a huge open source protocol called ELIZA. It's the most it's the number one trending open source framework on GitHub for the last 2 months. It's massive. This isn't just a AI meets crypto thing. This is a broader AI thing that these AI agents are becoming particularly these open source models being built by crypto teams are going mainstream. Another one of those is Arc, which has got one called Playground. That's also on Solana.
Now, the A16Z has nothing to do with Mark Andreessen, is it?
It's named after him.
But his firm isn't behind it.
No, this is AI16Z. So the purpose of this token originally was to create a hedge fund to flip or to do better than A16Z. So it got its name as AI16Z. Since then, over the course of it trying to do that, it built an open source framework called ELIZA, which you can go check out on GitHub. It's got 7,000 forks to it. It's I can't tell you how popular this is. It's been absolutely a huge trend in broader AI, and that's built by a crypto team. That token is now at around 1.5 billion. They announced they're going to do an agent marketplace in Q1. Similarly, that's the same for Arc. That's the same for ZeroBro, which is also on Solana. And then you have the memes. The memes are from the original AI agent that came in here, which is the Truth Terminal. That created Goat, and it created Fartcoin, which went over $1 billion. But those are more meme based. They were it was a meme AI agent which created 2 memes which became popular. But the real popular stuff, at least for the last month, has been the different agents and mainly the infrastructure around them as well. So AIXBT, which often comes number one on Mindshare, actually is kind of like a genius bar for crypto. It kind of you can at it on X, and it tells you it can tell you information about anything. But they're going to try and build a Bloomberg terminal off the back of that as well. That's a $500 million market cap. Like this stuff is going gangbusters. The rest of the meme coin market is in the trash right now, and AI agents have just done a 12x in the space of 2 months. And
I got to interrupt you there because it's one thing I've been talking about for like 15 years, and that is the interruption of Bloomberg terminals. Like it's literally, that is, if you could short Bloomberg terminals, do it. You can. It's a private company, but that is absolutely ripe for.
They're trying to do with XBT. That's on base. So what's really interesting about this, and this is what we said this year as well, is that it doesn't matter what the use case is for crypto. Solana is always going to be there. You know, like meme coins have, they didn't peak, but they've definitely not had a great 2 months on Solana. But AI coins have come in and been the number one thing, and most of them are on Solana or they're on Base. Base and Solana are dominating this. Base has a much stronger hold on AI coins than they did on meme coins, and it's been like institutional backing from it from various different bits of the Base ecosystem, and a lot of people think they're going to get listed on Coinbase as well. So Base and Solana is where you want to find these coins, but this is a great website if you want to just do some research. There's tons of new stuff happening each day. Vader, for example, this is like an investment DAO. They're getting AI agents to do like investments for you, and you own part of the DAO. That's at like 100 million now. But yeah, there's tons of stuff every single day. And
what we're seeing here is very clear. This is, again, like we said, the convergence of AI plus crypto, and all these different point use cases that you pointed out. Thank you for sharing that. Brilliant, by the way. And you got all pumped up too. But literally, they're going after select markets to disrupt that are in the traditional world. And for those investors out there, and I'm warning for years, AI is going to get so smart that it's going to be out investing you in the very near future. So we have maybe, some people say 2 years left, 3 years left, to be able to outperform markets, very, very good investors. After that, AI will deplete away all excess returns, especially on short-term trading. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, to be clear, many of the protocols here are trying to do that. That is their explicit aim, is to create agents which make money for you, swarms of agents which make money for you. Like that is the stated goal of AI16Z. Zero Bro has something very similar to that. Vader has something very similar to that. Many of these, their explicit goal is, we are going to create agents which make money for you on chain. And your original question was like, oh, we're seeing an altcoin season. Every single one of these coins, this is the 7-day change in price, right? Like up 78%, 25%, 30%, 110%. Zero Bro, I don't know why it's not showing, but that's up. All of these coins are up. So there is an altcoin season happening even right now, but it's happening in AI coins. So you have to be aware that, like, I don't want to say you always have to be rotating, but you have to be cognizant that, like, altcoin season isn't just a broad-based thing. Often it's just a subset. Like you can be sitting there waiting to be like, altcoin season is going to happen, and you'll miss meme coins for the first half of this year, and you'll miss this now. I'm telling you that this figure here can go to 100 billion. It really can. It really, really can. So it's one to pay attention to this for the next few months.
Yep. As you've been warning for 2 months. Thank you, Mando. Marty.
That supports, Mando, your excellent talk. Bloody excellent. That supports my narrative. I'm a layer one investor because of that reason. You can go chasing the hot new use case coins, but they're very volatile, or you can invest in the infrastructure that makes them all possible. That's why I'm a Solana and a layer one investor. Is all of these things are happening on Solana, and they'll keep evolving on Solana. So you can either try and chase the hot coins in each of these categories, or you can just invest and accumulate the infra. That kind of supports my narrative. But I agree with you. I saw a fantastic speech by an industry leader. I'm not going to mention names, not to cause any speculation, who said, somebody said to him, what is an AI agent? What is this rubbish? Buying meme coins for me? I don't care. And he said, no, you're missing the bigger picture. You'll be able to say, put down deposits on the cheapest houses on every block in Oklahoma. It can start buying real estate when crypto adoption starts. It can do anything for you. These AI agents will be able to make financial transactions for you without you even having to think about it. You'll simply say, find me the cheapest Learjet in the world and put a deposit down. Go.
Yep. So the big question,
mind-blowing.
The big question for us, and I'm going to give this to CTO, because this is melting the head. This is disrupting our future, the world's future. Like, will the four of us be here in a year from now, or will it be will it be AI agents spinning up this content for us? CTO.
Maybe it already does. Maybe we're not here. But I think there's one insight that I had many years ago that I want to share. AI is based on a feedback, right? You kind of try a result, you see if it was good, and you feedback the result. That's like the big picture idea. So anything on short time frames, AI is very, it can do it fantastic, because you can feedback the result, see if it was good, or you can correct. So I think if planning some strategy, anything to do with markets on short-term basis, if it's not already disappeared, that opportunity, it is disappearing. So I think like day trading strategies, 1 minute candles, 5 minutes candle, it's going to disappear. If there is an opportunity today, it's going to be gone tomorrow, because that's something that AI can do better, faster, instant feedback. The thing that AI hasn't really been able to do, at least up until this point, is the bigger long-term questions.
Yeah.
Like, will Bitcoin make it? Will Solana ever get replaced by something else? Will Ethereum come back? Or what is the next big narrative after AI agents? If you ask that question, we're not sure that then we'll get some kind of answer, but historically it hasn't been accurate. So I think the opportunity, it's like this saying that there is no get rich quick scheme, but there are plenty of get rich slow scheme, but most people don't have the patience. So I think that it's important to be reminded of that the opportunity that remains is the long-term opportunities.
Yeah, medium to long term.
Exactly. Exactly. Longer term opportunities, because it's much harder for AI to do that, because there's no real feedback loop. So I think that principle will remain true, and that's something that I'm thinking about. So try to lift the horizon, try to think a little bit longer term, and I think that opportunity will remain. And then it's also to think about your place in the value chain. If you're sitting in an office, taking instructions from the left, in front of the computer, and delivering output on the right, that is something that an AI agent perhaps can replace. Sorry, but if you move higher up in the value chain, you are the investor in those AI agents, you have a place, I think.
This is great stuff, and a lot of really good thoughts here for the audience. One people want to know, because we are talking about all season, if you had to pick, we'll do around the table real quick and then we'll wrap. All season, 1, 2, 3, 4. What are your top picks? Mando, is it GOAT?
I give that speech around AI coins, and then we'll pick that. I personally think Solana is going to have a really good next 6 months. On the back of, number one, this AI trend, I think is going to be dominating that. Number two, I think the unlocks is been overly bearish. The price action has probably already happened. You have the FTX repayments coming 60 days after Jan 3rd. I just think that general that underperformance that it had will reverse. So out of the majors, I'm definitely going for Solana there. And then I would pick 3 coins in that AI meets crypto bucket. So I would pick AI 16Z, because I think it has this ELIZA framework, which is incredibly strong for it. I picked something small. I probably pick ARC, which is the other big one there, which is got like I said, it's got another open source system playground, which has been very, very popular. I maybe pick that one just as a outside bet, and then I probably pick one of the major AI memes. So Fartcoin or GOAT, just because they're funny, and I think they have some. If this is going to be as big a trend as I think it's going to be, I think they both have some historical significance and is funny.
Fartcoin was not on my bingo card for 2024, and here we are. Marty,
you're going to hear a lot about it.
Marty,
I mean, I'm not really going to pick anything that I don't really think. I like long-term growth, so I will take obviously Solana, Sui. Zeus, which I believe is going to be the protocol that sits between Bitcoin, Solana, and Sui. I introduced Zeus team to the founders of Sui last week, and they're in discussion. So Zeus will implement Sui next, which is massive news. Bitcoin on Sui, Bitcoin on Solana, the integration layer, multi-coin, decentralized liquidity. And then for the fourth pick, I guess, do you want me to go out left field?
Yeah, why
do you
not?
Want me to go
Yeah.
way left field?
Do it.
I'm a big believer in Arweave. Actually, I think something like an Arweave, or a deep book on Sui, or a Walrus, decentralized storage. That's Arweave, Walrus on Sui. Deep book, I think, is another real 2026 winner. That's decentralized order books. Like I said, when AI agents require actually to do transactions, they're going to have to go to a decentralized order book. People have missed that point. So the API to these order books, which have no controller, which get liquidity from decentralized liquidity pools, there's literally no centralized concern. They will become huge. They will be where all transactions go to actually execute. So you want to look at decentralized order books, decentralized storage. So those are the projects.
Arweave was a play of mine back in 2021, a blast from the past. But
considering
it's a commoditized service, won't any excess profits be competed away like in all other industries?
I just think the overwhelming adoption volume coming from the combination of regulatory, the Trump administration, the czar, AI agents, adoption of stablecoin, the Stablecoin Act, the Bitcoin Reserve. I mean, FTX redistribution. There's just so many bullish events happening in the first weeks of 2025. I think the volumes in crypto are going to go exponential, and everything that is involved in volume will benefit. Everything that's not involved in volume will depreciate. So layer ones that do the volume will go parabolic, I believe. Decentralized liquidity, decentralized storage, anything that benefits from volume, DEXs, etc. It's not an accident that Janet Yellen has called an emergency meeting to regulate DeFi. They're finally clicking that these things are the future, and they're trying to get their dirty fingers in. DeFi is going to explode next year.
Real quick, Marty, your price target, which will outperform Zeus or Sui over the next year?
Zeus and Sui, I believe, have the same market maker. They're doing sort of the same macro pattern. So I think Zeus, does this final 65. It just did it like absolutely to the perfect Sui playbook. Does this final touch at 65.5, maybe does a 63.5, and then goes over $1 and doesn't come back. Then goes to $2.03. I think Sui goes to $5.76. I think Solana breaks 350. That's going into 2025. And if any of these macro events happen and Bitcoin gets a boost, I think they all go even higher. Okay. So those three to me are infra-wise my picks for 2025.
Awesome. And CTO, wrapping with you.
Yeah, so I think Mando's speech here earlier was fantastic. And I think there's a lot of profound insight in that. That I think we have to be more nimble, reflecting on 2024. It was exactly like that. Altcoins didn't pump together. It was different phases where different parts of the market pumped. And probably it will continue like that. That's a consequence of more coins, more projects. There's not enough liquidity to pump them all. They will selectively, different segments will pump. And I'm almost sure that my best trade of 2025, I haven't even discovered the coin yet. So that's the mindset that I'm going into the year with. I will spend much more time researching new projects, really trying to understand what they do, trying to get in earlier on more projects, and then have a reactive mindset. So I won't really do like this 1 year predictions, because it's a little bit it's not how I'm going to operate. I'm not going to buy something 1st of January and hold it for 1 year and then sell it. I'm not going to do that. I could love it on Monday and then it dumps on Tuesday, break support. I'm going to sell it. But if I sit here and say that project, people will remember it 1 year later and they will come back and say, what is down 99%? Yeah, but I sold when it was down 10%. So that's the situation. Looking at the market right now, Solana is at support, both on the BTC and the USD chart. That's worth noting if looking for opportunities right now. And yeah, like we talked about, I'm proud that we brought up AI agents here on the show. We talked a lot about it 2 months ago. And I think that's the most interesting sector right now, as Mando has already said and already covered. And I think that the disruption is going to be monumental. Instead of hiring a person, you can, have an AI agent, you give it money and it's going to work for you and come back with results. And I think that's a gigantic mind shift.
Yep.
If anyone hasn't tried the new ChatGPT models, you should do it. Go there, buy an account, play around with the new models, and you will be astonished how good it is. If you're doing any work in front of the computer, like, I don't know, programming or whatever, try it and you will be shocked.
Apparently Grok already smokes ChatGPT. And Grok
there will be
destroy.
many platforms. It's like a technology.
Yeah. Well, we've gone over the hour. I want to thank you all for coming, not just these three brilliant minds here, but also the audience. I want to wish everybody a healthy and happy new year. We're going to wrap here, unless you guys have any final thoughts. Because Bitcoin is just shy of 92K.
I was going to turn it back on you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah.
What are your 4 coins?
What are you for you, James?
Yeah. I forgot to do myself. Yeah, well, I'm the same. I have Sol position that I've had for a long time now. Never sold any. I have a Sui position now. That's kind of like my number 2, but it's a much smaller position because I've been stacking Sol for a long time. It's very difficult to build up size. And I am also very interested in these AI agents. I will be doing some research. I'm in a couple of Sol alts like Jupiter, Nosana, which is AI related too.
Yeah.
And I think, I think my 4th will be, Zeus as well. I'm in as well. And what was actually done really well for me, surprisingly, it's not crypto, but my crypto proxies, the stocks like Sol Strategies and Neptune Digital, they've been freaking face melting. I've had my all season in the last 3 months from those things alone. Like, Sol's going down, Sol Strategy is going to the moon. And Marty, you know that one too. So we both got into that first day they announced 4 months ago. I'm a TradFi guy. I still play a lot with stocks.
Yeah, I think when Sol Strategies hits the NASDAQ, they just applied. They're in the process. They're on the Bloomberg terminal for, I think, March or April final approval.
Yep.
I think that's going to be an incredible narrative.
Yeah, and
it's like a strategy with a reserve that earns yield. It's like the perfect synergy.
Staking rewards, but they also run validators, which are making a ton of money.
And they run validators, which they're accumulating for now at these lows, which makes you wonder, was the price brought down for validators to accumulate stake?
So I love what Manda said as well. It's like there's always money to be made somewhere. We've had old seasons in separate narratives that are all pumping at different times. Dino coins, meme coins, AI agents, etc. It's all over the place. So the key is timing the narratives. In tomorrow's video, Okta, I always look at narratives and what's on the verge of, what's lagging, or what's on the verge of pumping, and where the adoption is. So, yeah, great show, guys. Final words before we wrap? Hit the end button.
It's been a pleasure to be with you guys for 2025. Looking forward to doing this. For 2024. Looking forward to doing this in 2025.
And as Manda said, this is the all-in pod for crypto.
All-in pod for crypto.
You're Shema.
Great show. Thanks, Good show.
CTO, you can be Rain Man David Sachs.
Yeah.
Marty, you can be Jason. I don't want to be Jason.
No, I hate Jason. Not my favorite person at all. Jason's like, I don't watch the Pauline podcast because of Jason.
Yeah, he's annoying. He's annoying. Anyway, thank you all. Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, audience. Hang tight. 2025 is still looking bright. We're not giving up yet.
Let's go.
Good night, everybody. Bye.
Happy New Year, everyone.